The shot rang out across the dusty main street of Redemption, Arizona Territory, 1878, freezing everyone in their tracks as Katherine Foster raised her smoking pistol toward the sky. The crowd parted like the Red Sea as Sheriff Wilson stormed toward her, his face a thundercloud of fury beneath his sweat-stained hat. Katherine's emerald eyes burned with defiance, her chest heaving beneath her simple calico dress as she lowered the weapon. "That's enough of your shenanigans, Miss Foster," Sheriff Wilson bellowed, snatching the pistol from her trembling hand. "I warned you last time, you cause any more trouble in my town and you'd be seeing the inside of my jail." "He was trying to rob the apothecary," Katherine protested, gesturing toward the man cowering behind the water trough. "Mrs. Jenkins was alone in there. I fired a warning shot to scare him off." The sheriff's meaty hand clamped around Katherine's wrist. "Don't matter. Ladies don't go waving firearms around in the street. You're spending the night in my jail to cool that hot head of yours." As Sheriff Wilson dragged Katherine toward the jailhouse, the crowd of onlookers parted once more. A tall figure emerged from the shadows of the saloon. Liam Morgan surveyed the scene with steel blue eyes, his expression unreadable beneath the brim of his black Stetson. He was new to Redemption, having ridden in just 2 days prior, but already the townsfolk gave him a wide berth. Something in his bearing, the easy confidence, the weathered holster riding low on his hip, marked him as dangerous. "Sheriff," Liam called, his voice carrying across the now silent street. "What's the charge against the lady?" Wilson turned, his grip still tight on Katherine's arm. "None of your business, stranger. Move along." Liam stepped forward, spurs jingling with each deliberate stride. "Just curious what crime warrants manhandling a woman in broad daylight." Katherine looked up at him, surprise flickering across her face. No one in Redemption had ever questioned the sheriff's authority, not since he'd run the last marshal out of town 3 years ago, disturbing the peace. "Reckless discharge of a firearm," Wilson growled, "and I don't need to explain myself to some drifter." Liam's eyes met Katherine's for a brief moment. Something passed between them, an unspoken understanding, a spark of connection neither could explain. "How much?" Liam asked, reaching for the leather pouch at his belt. "How much what?" The sheriff's brow furrowed. "The fine for her release." Liam's voice remained calm, but there was steel beneath the words. Sheriff Wilson snorted. "Ain't no fine. She needs to learn her lesson." Liam withdrew a gold coin from his pouch, flipping it casually between his fingers. $20 says she's learned it." The sheriff's eyes narrowed, darting between the coin and Liam's impassive face. Katherine could almost see the gears turning in the corrupt lawman's mind, weighing the satisfaction of locking her up against the allure of easy money. 50, Wilson countered. "And she's out of my town by sundown tomorrow." Katherine stiffened. "This is my home, Sheriff. You can't." "Done," Liam interrupted, producing more coins. He counted them out deliberately into the sheriff's outstretched palm. Wilson released Katherine's arm, pocketing the money with a smirk. "Get her out of my sight, and remember sundown tomorrow." As the sheriff stalked away, Katherine rounded on her unexpected savior. "I didn't ask for your help, Mr. Morgan, Liam Morgan." He tipped his hat slightly. "And no, you didn't ask, but that doesn't mean you didn't need it." Katherine rubbed her wrist where the sheriff's fingers had left red marks. "I don't need a stranger fighting my battles, Mr. Morgan, especially one who's just paid to have me run out of the only home I've known." Liam's expression softened slightly. "Sometimes we all need help, Miss Foster." "Katherine Foster," she lifted her chin defiantly, "and I've been taking care of myself since I was 16. I don't doubt it." His eyes took in the determined set of her jaw, the proud way she held herself despite her precarious situation. "But right now, you need somewhere to go." "I have a cabin about 3 hours' ride from here. You're welcome to it until you figure out your next move." Katherine's eyes widened. "You expect me to ride off with a man I just met? I may be in trouble, Mr. Morgan, but I'm not a fool." A ghost of a smile touched Liam's lips. "I'll be staying in town. The cabin's yours for as long as you need it." Why would you do that for a stranger? Suspicion laced her voice. Liam's gaze drifted to the jailhouse where Sheriff Wilson was watching them through the window. Let's just say I recognize injustice when I see it. And I have my own reasons for not caring much for men who abuse their authority. Katherine followed his gaze, then looked back at the tall cowboy. Something in his eyes, a haunted quality beneath the strength, made her hesitate. I have nowhere else to go, she admitted finally. My parents are gone, and the boarding house where I've been staying belongs to the sheriff's cousin. Liam nodded. Pack your things. I'll meet you at the livery in an hour, and Miss Foster, bring whatever's important. I don't think the sheriff plans to let you return. An hour later, Katherine arrived at the livery stable with a single trunk and a worn leather satchel. Her simple belongings, a few dresses, her mother's silver hairbrush, a dog-eared copy of Tennyson's poems, were all she had to show for 23 years of life. Liam was waiting with 2 horses, his own massive black gelding and a gentle dappled mare. Can you ride? He asked, taking her trunk. Since I was a child, Katherine replied, stroking the mare's velvety nose. My father taught me before he passed. Liam secured her trunk to the back of his horse. Your father must have been an unusual man, teaching his daughter to ride and shoot. A sad smile touched Katherine's lips. He was a doctor, believed women should be able to defend themselves, especially out here. She gestured vaguely at the harsh landscape surrounding the town. He died in a fever outbreak 4 years ago. My mother followed 6 months later. I'm sorry, Liam said, and there was genuine sympathy in his voice. He helped her mount, then swung easily into his own saddle. It's a hard land for losing people. They rode in silence as the town of Redemption fell away behind them, the setting sun painting the desert in hues of gold and crimson. Katherine's mind whirled with the sudden change in her circumstances. That morning, she'd been Katherine Foster, the doctor's orphaned daughter who worked at the town's small library. Now she was essentially an exile, riding into the wilderness with a man whose past was as much a mystery as her future. Why are you in Redemption, Mr. Morgan? She asked finally, breaking the silence. Liam's eyes remained fixed on the trail ahead. Liam, please, and I'm passing through, like many places before it. You don't seem like the usual drifters that come through town. He glanced at her, one eyebrow raised. What do I seem like then? Katherine studied him, the straight back, the watchful eyes, the way he carried himself. Like someone running from something, or towards something. A flicker of surprise crossed his face before he masked it. Perceptive, he murmured, then more loudly, we've all got pasts, Miss Foster. Katherine, she corrected. And yes, we do. Mine just happens to be confined to one small town in the Arizona territory. As darkness settled around them, Liam pointed to a distant ridge. The cabin's just beyond there. We'll reach it before full dark. True to his word, they crested the ridge as the last light faded from the sky. Below them, nestled against the base of a towering red rock formation, stood a small but sturdy log cabin. A creek gurgled nearby, and a corral extended from one side of the structure. It's not much, Liam said as they approached, but it's solid. No one will bother you here. Katherine took in the isolated setting. It's beautiful, she said honestly, but it seems far from everything. How did you come to own it? Liam dismounted, coming around to help her down. I did a favor for a man a few years back. He left it to me when he moved on to California. Inside, the cabin was simple but surprisingly comfortable. A stone fireplace dominated one wall, with a wooden table and chairs nearby. A curtain separated the main room from what appeared to be a sleeping area. Shelves lined one wall, holding books, a surprise that made Katherine's eyes light up. You read, she observed. Liam shrugged, lighting a lamp. When there's time, the nights get long out here. He showed her where everything was: the water barrel, the stores of dried and preserved food, the extra blankets. I'll sleep in the lean-to out back tonight, he said. I'll ride out at first light. Katherine frowned. You're leaving, but this is your home. It's a place I stay sometimes, he corrected. I told you I'm passing through. I have business in Tucson. She bit her lip, suddenly aware of how dependent she was on this stranger's goodwill. "When will you return?" "A week, maybe 2. His eyes met hers. "Will you be all right here alone?" Katherine looked around the cabin, then back at him. "Yes," she said with more confidence than she felt. "I'll be fine." Liam nodded. "There's a rifle above the fireplace. Do you know how to use it?" "Yes." "Good, keep it close." He hesitated, then added, "Sheriff Wilson isn't known for letting go of grudges easily." Catherine's stomach tightened. "You think he'll come looking for me? I think it's best to be cautious." Liam's hand moved unconsciously to the gun at his hip. "Get some rest, Katherine. Tomorrow will be soon enough to figure out what comes next." True to his word, Liam was gone when Katherine awoke the next morning. Sunlight streamed through the cabin's small windows, illuminating dust motes dancing in the air. For a moment she lay still, absorbing the unfamiliar sounds, birds calling, the distant rushing of the creek, the profound absence of human voices. She rose, washed her face in the basin, and dressed in her simplest skirt and blouse. The cabin felt different in daylight, less intimidating, almost welcoming. She explored more thoroughly, finding small signs of Liam's presence. A carved wooden horse on the mantel, a battered copy of the Odyssey with notes in the margins, a sketch of mountains she didn't recognize. Outside, the landscape took her breath away. The red rocks glowed in the morning sun, and the creek bubbled over smooth stones. A small garden plot behind the cabin held vegetables that needed tending. She set to work, grateful for the familiar task. Days passed in a strange, peaceful rhythm. Katherine cleaned the cabin from top to bottom, organized the bookshelves, and expanded the garden. She explored the surrounding area, always careful to keep the cabin in sight. At night, she read by lamplight or sat on the porch, watching the stars and wondering about the man who had appended her life, who was Liam Morgan. The cabin offered few clues, no photographs, no letters, nothing personal beyond the books. Yet she felt his presence everywhere in the precisely arranged tools, the well-maintained furniture, the carefully stocked pantry. This was not the home of a careless drifter. On the 7th day, as Katherine was hanging laundry on a line strung between 2 pines, the sound of approaching hoofbeats made her freeze. She darted inside, grabbing the rifle from above the fireplace, her heart pounding against her ribs. Through the window, she watched as a rider approached. Relief flooded through her as she recognized Liam's broad shoulders and black hat. She set the rifle down and went outside to meet him. "You're back early," she called as he dismounted. His eyes traveled over the homestead, the tended garden, the clean porch, the laundry fluttering in the breeze before settling on her face. Business concluded sooner than expected. Katherine noticed a new stiffness in his movements as he unsaddled his horse. "Are you injured?" Liam shook his head dismissively. "Just saddle sore." But when he lifted his saddlebags, she saw him wince. "You're lying," she said flatly. "Let me see." For a moment, he looked like he might refuse, then his shoulders slumped slightly. Inside, he conceded. In the cabin, Katherine directed him to sit at the table. "Take off your shirt," she ordered, gathering clean cloths and water. Liam raised an eyebrow at her commanding tone but complied, unbuttoning his shirt to reveal a muscled torso and a crude bandage wrapped around his right side, stained with blood. Katherine sucked in a breath. "What happened?" "Disagreement with a man in Tucson," he said, his voice tight as she carefully unwound the bandage. The wound beneath was ugly, a deep gash along his ribs that had been hastily stitched. "This needs proper tending," she murmured, examining the inflamed edges. "It's starting to fester." "I've had worse." "That doesn't make it better." She set to work cleaning the wound with sure, gentle hands. "My father taught me some doctoring. You're lucky it didn't hit anything vital." Liam watched her face as she worked, noting the concentration in her green eyes, the small furrow between her brows. "You've made yourself at home," he observed. Katherine paused, suddenly self-conscious. "I hope you don't mind. I needed something to do." "I don't mind." A slight smile touched his lips. "Place hasn't looked this good in years." She finished rebandaging his side, her fingers lingering briefly on his warm skin. "There, keep it clean and try not to reopen it." Their eyes met, and for a moment neither spoke. Catherine became acutely aware of his bare chest, of how close they were sitting, of the strange intimacy of tending his wound. She cleared her throat and stood. "Are you hungry? I made stew." Liam pulled his shirt back on, wincing slightly. "Starving, haven't had a home-cooked meal in months." As they ate, Catherine told him about her week, the fox she'd seen by the creek, the vegetables she'd harvested, the books she'd read. Liam listened attentively, offering occasional comments or questions, but sharing little about his own journey. What really happened in Tucson? She asked finally as they finished their meal. Liam's face closed off. "Nothing worth discussing. The man who stabbed you might disagree." He gave her a sharp look. "Some questions are better left unasked, Catherine." "And some answers are necessary when you're sharing a home with someone," she countered. Liam stood, carrying his bowl to the wash basin. "We're not sharing a home, you're staying here temporarily." The words stung more than they should have. Catherine rose as well, gathering the remaining dishes. "Of course, forgive me for forgetting my place in your charity." Liam sighed, running a hand through his dark hair. "That's not what I meant, isn't it?" She turned to face him. "I appreciate what you've done for me, Mr. Morgan, but I'm not a stray dog you can feed and then ignore." His eyes narrowed. "Is that what you think I'm doing?" "I don't know what you're doing," Catherine replied, frustration edging her voice. "I don't know who you are, why you helped me, or what happened in Tucson. I don't know anything about the man whose roof I'm under." Liam was silent for a long moment, studying her face. Then, unexpectedly, he nodded. "Fair enough." He moved to sit by the fire, gesturing for her to join him. "What do you want to know?" Catherine sat across from him, surprised by his capitulation. "Who are you, really?" "I was a Texas Ranger," he said quietly. "For 8 years," her eyes widened. Left 3 years ago," his gaze fixed on the dancing flames. "There was a raid. A family was killed, mother, father, 2 children. The men responsible were connected to a powerful rancher. My captain ordered me to let it go." His jaw tightened. "I couldn't." "What did you do?" Catherine asked softly. "What I was sworn to do, brought them to justice." The firelight cast shadows across his face. "The rancher had 3 of them break out of jail. They ambushed me on the trail. I survived, they didn't." He looked up at her. "The Rangers disavowed me. The rancher put a price on my head. I've been moving ever since." Catherine absorbed this, seeing him with new eyes. "And Tucson," one of the rancher's men recognized me, "thought he'd collect the bounty." A grim smile touched Liam's lips. He was mistaken. "Is that why you helped me? Because you saw another injustice?" Liam considered this. "Partly," he admitted. "But there was something about you, standing up to the sheriff even knowing what it would cost you." His eyes met hers. "Courage is rare in this world." Catherine felt her cheeks warm under his gaze. "Not courage, foolishness, maybe. There's a fine line between the two." He leaned forward. "Now, fair exchange. Who is Katherine Foster?" "Beyond the doctor's daughter who reads Tennyson and shoots warning shots over would-be robbers' heads." Catherine smiled slightly. "There's not much to tell. I was born in redemption. My father came west to practice medicine where it was needed most. My mother taught at the school until she fell ill." She twisted her hands in her lap. "After they died, I stayed on, worked at the library, helped at the school sometimes. It's the only life I've known." "Until now," Liam observed. "Until now," she agreed. "I never thought I'd leave redemption. Never really wanted to. And now," Catherine looked around the cabin, then back at him. "Now I'm not sure what I want, except not to be alone," she admitted softly. Something shifted in Liam's eyes, a warming, a recognition. "That's something we can understand in each other, then." The days that followed established a new rhythm. Liam hunted and chopped wood, careful of his healing wound. Catherine cooked and tended the garden. In the evenings, they sat by the fire, sometimes reading silently, sometimes talking. She told him about her childhood in redemption, about her father's dedication to healing and her mother's love of poetry. He shared carefully edited stories from his ranger days, and occasionally, glimpses of his own childhood on a small farm in West Texas. A tentative friendship formed, built on shared tasks and quiet evenings. Katherine found herself watching him when he didn't notice the careful precision with which he cleaned his gun, the gentleness he showed to his horse, the rare smile that transformed his serious face. For his part, Liam seemed to relax in her presence, the vigilant tension in his shoulders easing slightly. 2 weeks after his return, they rode together to a small trading post half a day's journey from the cabin. Katherine reveled in the expedition, grateful for human contact beyond Liam, though she was careful to give a false name when the trader's wife asked who she was. On the ride back, a summer storm overtook them, forcing them to take shelter in a shallow cave. Rain pounded the earth outside as they huddled together, watching lightning split the darkened sky. "It's beautiful," Katherine murmured, drawing her knees to her chest. "Terrifying but beautiful." Liam nodded, his shoulder warm against hers in the confined space. "Nature reminds us how small we are, how temporary," she glanced at him. "That's a melancholy thought." "Is it?" He turned to look at her, their faces close in the dim light. "I find it freeing. All our troubles, all our fears, they're just moments in time. They pass like the storm." "Some storms leave destruction in their wake," Katherine pointed out. Liam's eyes held hers. "And some bring new growth, new beginnings." The air between them seemed to thicken, charged like the lightning-filled sky. Katherine became acutely aware of his proximity, of the steady rise and fall of his chest, of his hand resting inches from hers on the cave floor. Slowly, deliberately, Liam's fingers moved to cover hers. Katherine's breath caught in her throat, but she didn't pull away. For a long moment they sat like that, connected by that simple touch as the storm raged outside. Then, with equal deliberation, Liam withdrew his hand and looked away. "Storm's passing," he said, his voice rougher than usual. "We should continue if we want to reach home before dark." Home. The word hung between them, undefined yet powerful. The journey back was quiet, each lost in their own thoughts. But something had changed, a door had opened, just a crack, and neither was sure how to proceed. That night, as they prepared for bed, Katherine paused by the curtains separating their sleeping areas. "Liam," he looked up from where he was banking the fire. "Yes, thank you for today, for," she hesitated, "for making me feel less alone." His expression softened. "You've done the same for me, Katherine." She nodded, disappearing behind the curtain. But sleep was elusive, her mind replaying the moment in the cave, wondering what might have happened if the storm had lasted longer. 3 days later, as summer began its slow transition to fall, Katherine was alone at the cabin. Liam had ridden out at dawn to check his trap lines, promising to return by midday. Katherine hummed as she kneaded bread dough, enjoying the simple pleasure of the task. The sound of approaching horses shattered the peaceful morning. More than one rider, not Liam, returning early. Katherine froze, then quickly wiped her hands and moved to the window. 3 men on horseback approached the cabin. With a jolt of fear, she recognized Sheriff Wilson in the lead. How had he found her? Katherine grabbed the rifle and stepped onto the porch, the weapon held ready but not aimed. "Morning, Miss Foster," Wilson called, his tone falsely pleasant. "Quite a hiding place you found yourself." "This is private property, Sheriff," Katherine replied, her voice steadier than she felt. "What brings you all this way?" Wilson dismounted, his deputies following suit. "Came to bring you back to redemption. Got some questions about a robbery that took place after you left." "Convenient timing, wouldn't you say?" Katherine's grip tightened on the rifle. "I've never stolen anything in my life." Wilson stepped closer, his hand resting on his holstered gun. "Maybe not, but your friend Morgan has quite a reputation. Texas Ranger turned outlaw, wanted in 3 states. Katherine kept her expression neutral, though her heart pounded painfully. "Mr. Morgan isn't here. Then you won't mind if we wait for him." Wilson smiled, the expression not reaching his eyes. "Inside, preferably. It's getting warm out here." Katherine raised the rifle slightly. "I would mind, actually. Please leave." The sheriff's smile vanished. "Now see here, girl, You're in no position to give orders. That cowboy paid for one night of freedom, not a lifetime. You're coming back with us one way or another." "I don't think she is," came Liam's voice from behind them. Everyone turned. Liam sat atop his black gelding at the edge of the clearing, his rifle resting casually across his lap. He'd approached silently, using the cover of the trees. Wilson's hand moved toward his gun, but Liam's voice stopped him. "I wouldn't. I can put a bullet through your hand before you clear leather." The sheriff's face darkened with fury. "You're interfering with the law, Morgan." "Am I?" Liam urged his horse forward, his eyes never leaving Wilson. "Seems to me I'm protecting a lady from harassment." "Katherine hasn't broken any laws. She's a witness in an investigation." "An investigation you fabricated to justify riding out here," Liam countered. "What's the real reason, Wilson? Did it sting your pride that I paid for her freedom, or is it something else?" His eyes narrowed. "Maybe someone's paying you to find me." A flicker of something guilt, fear, crossed Wilson's face. "You think mighty highly of yourself, Morgan." "I think someone recognized me in redemption, someone who knows about the bounty." Liam's voice hardened. "Who was it, Wilson? Who sent you here?" The sheriff's jaw worked. "Don't know what you're talking about." "I think you do." Liam dismounted, his rifle still trained on the three men. "And I think you have a choice to make. Ride away now, forget you found this place, and live to see another sunrise. Or try your luck against a man with nothing left to lose." The tension stretched between them, taut as a bowstring. Katherine held her breath, the rifle steady in her hands despite her fear. Finally, Wilson's shoulders slumped slightly. "Come on, boys," he muttered to his deputies. "Ain't worth dying over." As they mounted their horses, Wilson turned back with a venomous glare. "This isn't over, Morgan. For your sake, I hope it is," Liam replied evenly. They watched in silence as the three men rode away. Only when they disappeared over the ridge did Liam lower his rifle. Katherine let out a shaky breath. "They'll be back with more men." Liam nodded grimly. "We need to leave tonight." "Leave?" Katherine looked at the cabin, the home they'd created together. "Where would we go? North, to Colorado maybe, or Montana?" Liam moved closer, his eyes serious. "Katherine, I can't stay here now that Wilson knows where to find me, and it's not safe for you either." "Because of me," she said quietly. "If you hadn't helped me, don't," he interrupted. "I made my choice, and I'd make it again." His hand rose to touch her cheek. "But now you have a choice to make. You can come with me, or I can take you somewhere safe, a town where Wilson has no reach." Katherine leaned into his touch. "And if I come with you, it won't be easy," he warned. "Always moving, always watching over our shoulders." "Until when?" Liam's thumb traced her jawline. "Until I can clear my name, or until we find somewhere so remote, so hidden that no one will ever find us." "Us," Katherine repeated softly. "Is that what you want, for there to be an us?" In answer, Liam lowered his head and kissed her. It was gentle at first, questioning, then deepened as Katherine responded, her arms winding around his neck. When they finally broke apart, both were breathing hard. "I've wanted to do that since the cave," Liam admitted, his forehead resting against hers. Katherine smiled. "I've wanted you to do that since the cave." His arms tightened around her waist. "Come with me, Katherine. I know it's asking a lot." "Yes," she interrupted. "I'll come with you." Relief and something more profound flooded his face. "You're sure?" Katherine looked into his eyes, seeing the future there uncertain, perhaps dangerous, but also filled with possibility. "With love. I'm sure. My home isn't a place anymore, Liam. It's you." They packed quickly, taking only what they could carry on their horses. As twilight fell, Katherine stood on the porch one last time, committing the cabin to memory. "We can build another," Liam said softly, coming to stand beside her. "Somewhere with mountains. You'd like mountains." Katherine leaned against him. "I'd like anything as long as we're together." Under the cover of darkness, they rode north, leaving behind the cabin that had sheltered their beginning. The path ahead was uncertain, but as they traveled side by side, Katherine felt a peace she hadn't known since before her parents died. Whatever came next, they would face it together. 6 months later, in a small mining town nestled in the Colorado Rockies, Katherine Foster became Catherine Morgan in a simple ceremony performed by a traveling preacher. They settled in a cabin built with Liam's own hands, hidden in a valley accessible only by a narrow, easily defended trail. Word eventually reached them that Sheriff Wilson had been removed from office, his corruption finally exposed by the new territorial marshal. The bounty on Liam remained, but as the years passed and no pursuers found their mountain sanctuary, it faded into a distant concern. Their family grew first with a daughter who had Catherine's eyes and Liam's determination, then with a son who inherited his father's height and his mother's love of books. They built a life filled with love, with purpose, with the quiet joy of people who had found their place in the world. And sometimes, on summer evenings when the children were asleep, Catherine would sit with Liam on their porch, watching the stars emerge over the mountains, and remember the day a tall cowboy had paid her fine and changed her life forever. Any regrets? Liam would ask occasionally, his arm warm around her shoulders, and Catherine would smile, leaning into his embrace. "Not one," she'd answer truthfully. "Not a single one.